back, ladies and gentlemen. Brand new edition of Beyond the Curtain Wrestling Podcast, where we review all Elite Wrestling Dynamite shows. Recap show here for you again. Same guest, same channel, same time-ish. As always, guest joining us tonight, host of Takin the Bump podcast. We've got James Beatley. Sir, how the hell you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Finally had my heart rate go back to normal from the main event of tonight's show. But let's recap. Let's go through the show, baby.
Let's do it. Opening match. Kind of surprised I thought it was going to open up, but it definitely did. Private Party versus Hangman, Adam Page, Kenny Omega for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. It's kind of shocked me that this would be the opening match of the night. You know, I thought that they would have some of these other matches. I definitely thought Cassidy versus Jericho would be either semi-main or main, so I kind of got that aspect of it, but I was surprised that Tag Team Dynamite started off. This was really solid match. One spot in particular that I was crazy for was when Isaiah Cassidy springboarded went over the top rope, and instead of doing a springboard from the top rope to do a senton outside, he did it from the middle rope onto Hangman Page. That was sick. That was pretty cool. That was unique. I've never seen that. Overall, this was a really solid tag match. All you haters out there are going to say AEW has way too many tag team matches just because this company can perform with the best of them when it comes to tag team wrestling. But in the end, the last call, the V-trigger, the lariat combo wins the match for Page and Omega, and they win and retain the World Tag Team titles. What did you think overall in this segment, this match?
Yeah, no, I joined you as well in the fact that I didn't think that this would open the show. I was actually pleasantly surprised with that. But then again, AEW does like to start their shows with basically a main event quality match and then end the show with a main event quality match. So I guess it kind of fits the script, and it was one hell of a way to start Fyter Fest Night 2 and get everybody into it. I love both teams. Kind of miss the old school Private Party intro music though. Not saying that their current music is awful, but I definitely like their older theme music better. I thought it was funny before the match started how whatever Private Party member Adam Hangman Page owes money for was, I think it's Mark Quinn and maybe Cassidy, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's one of the two. I don't remember exactly. Yeah.
They were trying to get their $12 back before the match started. And Hangman's probably already spent it all on whiskey.
Probably one shot of it too.
But no, it was a very good, solid match. Just leads on to the story of like what's going to happen with this tag division. We saw a phenomenal 8-man tag match later on in the show, and then even on Dark and every other Dynamite, the tag team division shines above the rest in AEW and probably in all of professional wrestling. I think they do have the best tag team division in pro wrestling. And it's tough because everybody's like, well, every other match can't be a tag match. But when you have so many good tag teams, you kind of want every other match to be a tag match. And, the real true fans of AEW don't really care as long as you put out quality matches. And they do every single time. Well, mostly every single time. And this played right along to that, and it was like I said, great way to open the show. Looking back from a retrospective point of view, I think it was a solid way to open the show as well, get everybody into it. Yeah, I mean, who can beat Hangman and Adam Page? Like they've beaten the best of every tag team right now. Seems like that may be something FTR may want to challenge, or the Lucha Bros maybe want to try and get back in there.
I was gonna say there's a couple left. I think that have a good shot at it.
So we'll see, and that just brings on an intrigue. We kind of have this dynamic where the Dark Order has 2 or 3 separate tag teams that you could possibly see in the tag team picture. Just interesting, the dynamic, the depth of the tag division, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later on because there is more tag matches later on in the show.
Absolutely. Like I've said before, this is the best tag team roster in pro wrestling history. I stand by that. I always will. Ow. Yeah, that sounded like that hurt. Just how deep this talent pool is amazing. AEW came at a perfect time to sign all of these guys, and then with the free agencies kind of going on, or releases, whatever you want to call it, playing to their favor as well. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. Second match on the show was Joey Janela versus Lance Archer. I ain't gonna lie to you, I was trying to put a 5-year-old to sleep, and she was not cooperating very well, so I missed like 95% of the match. I got back down to see Joey Janela get through, put through a table, and then Lance beat him up more, get the 1, 2, 3. I have a feeling this was a beat up Joey Janela type of match, but I don't know. All I know is that Archer won.
Well, I was awake and watching this, and it wasn't necessarily like Janela got his ass kicked for 95% of the match. It was back and forth. And Janela did get his spots, but it was kind of like one of those things where, like, the monster obviously is going to win, and you can only do so much offense before he ultimately defeats you. And I think for what it was worth, a sunny kiss got thrown out across the ring a couple times by Lance Archer. So, and at the end of the day, I think it kind of got Janela over that he can compete with some of the bigger guys in the promotion, but it got Archer a necessary win. It's kind of that weird dynamic, and someone brought it up on social media a few days ago, where Archer went from fighting Cody for the TNT title to kind of playing in the depth, and now has to work its way back through the roster. And this is Janela is one of those guys that'll give you a good match, and then you'll on your way and you'll fight the next guy. Janela, not to call him a jobber to say, but he does. I mean, he fits the bill. I think Janela would be a perfect candidate to fight Luther in a death match sometime soon in the future. Luther is a death match specialist. No, you don't want to see that. Not your cup of tea.
Death matches are not. I've seen a couple of them, and a lot of blood, a lot of hardcore, and not my forte, not my taste.
And you have every right to like what you want to. That's what we always practice and preach here. Everybody has their flavors, but yeah, Janela, I love what he does, especially with his own promotion, the GCW, and it's just, he's kind of like an underrated guy in my opinion, but I think honestly he fits the character that he's playing there in AEW, and he'll get his wins, but he's also a guy that can do the job and get a guy over. And that's honestly, in my opinion, the ability to get somebody over means more than just winning every match. When it's your turn to get over, you'll get over. But if you can put other guys over, then that means that you really actually care about the business you're in. Decent match. Janela got, honestly, a couple close pins that he almost won the match. but obviously Archer was just too tough to tame. I can't remember what he calls his finisher.
Kaylee was down here. She would tell us. So she knows it. I, for whatever reason, I can't remember it.
But gets basically crucified through a table, and that basically ended it. So, solid match. A good way to kind of continue momentum on the show. I wasn't going to say by any stretch that it was a terrible match, but I think Archer can do better, have better competitors, and maybe can find his way back up through the world title picture sometime soon.
Absolutely. Moving on, we get to Taz and Brian Cage having their big announcement. Even what the announcement was, what it was, I felt like they would have played this up a little bit more and put it towards near the end of the show. But it came in as one of the first, the third segment basically on the show. So within the first hour. Mm-hmm. But the big announcement, Cage and Taz come out, and Taz is hyping up the match for next week at Fight for the Fallen between him and between Cage and Jon Moxley for the world title, and says that the match should have happened tonight, which it originally should have. It was originally promoted and scheduled for tonight, but of course due to the COVID situation with Mox, the match got canceled and put back a week, and will happen next week on TNT at Fight for the Fallen, another special edition of Dynamite. So Taz said, you know what, I'm going to bring back something from my past, and basically I'm going to hand this down to this person, to Brian Cage, because he is the man, the monster, the machine, and he deserves a belt, and he's going to bring a belt into Fight for the Fallen and come out as a double champion. And Taz brings out the old classic FTW Championship that he initiated, he created, used it in ECW, and now has brought it to AEW, where he gave the belt to Brian Cage and labeled him as the FTW champion. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with the FTW Championship belt.
No.
That's a Taz creation. He used it in ECW and basically just made his own thing. And it got over. It was very over. Taz was one of the most over guys, if not the most over guy in ECW before he moved on. So it was cool to see that kind of piece of nostalgia, that little piece of wrestling history come back. I'm glad Taz did bring it back. Putting it on the Cage was interesting. And I saw something on social media last week that Cage needs to talk a little bit more, not let Taz, to do all the talking. I agree with that, but I think that Brian Cage is not comfortable very much on the microphone, that he's okay with letting Taz do it, and he just has his little few things here and there. But, of course, the only way you can get better is by doing it more often, get more reps. So while I'm okay with Taz doing this stuff for now, I do feel Brian Cage does need to do some of his own stuff too. So we'll wait to see about that. But a cool segment. I enjoyed it. It's good to see, old classic things come back and what's old is new again type of thing. So whether if it's officially recognized by the company or if it's officially recognized as a championship belt in any capacity, Brian Cage will walk in to Fight for the Fallen next week as the FTW champion against the AEW World Champion and Jon Moxley. Will he walk out of Fight for the Fallen as a double champion, quote unquote? We'll see what happens next week.
So when they announced, I think Tony Khan was playing on this like a couple days ago on social media, talking about a big announcement coming up. And, you see these things all the time on pro wrestling TV where a big announcement comes and it's something kind of like this. It doesn't like overwhelm you. It's not like an over shocking event, but it isn't something that's like underwhelming as well. I think it played pretty decent into what the moment needed to be. He kind of Taz kind of got his shots on Moxley a little bit, just kind of ruffle his head a little bit, get him, doubting himself maybe a little bit heading into next week for their match. And I guess since I am not a big ECW, not have a lot of knowledge in old school ECW, the WWE ECW, I know a little bit more of, with like Ezekiel Jackson and all of them people. But obviously it wasn't the same thing as the OG ECW.
Oh, that's atrocious. Anyways, continue.
So I guess the only thing I can kind of compare it to would be when Zack Ryder crowned himself the Internet Champion and got really over with that as well. But obviously in a more hardcore fashion is Taz over Zack Ryder. But no, it was cool. I think it's one of those things. I don't know if, like you said, if they'll like actually unify it as like an AEW thing, or if it's just more of a prop, a heel tactic type situation. But regardless, Taz, he regardless of what it was, Taz sold it really well. And that's the thing with AEW is, I'm sure when they were looking at this, they weren't planning on Moxley to have to miss Fyter Fest. Shit happens with the pandemic and everything going on, so you saw in NASCAR, like the most known NASCAR driver that currently drives had to miss the biggest race probably of the year in terms of like honor and prestige, and how he's able to come back. So this, it affects everybody. You can't like predict when somebody's going to get a sickness or whatnot, and it's not one of those things that you can take lightly. And I appreciate AEW for not really scrambling to the last minute, but able to move on their feet and make a plan to kind of work around the inconvenience for him for a little bit. And you'll still see, I think, a very dominating match. It's just a week later. I don't know. The whole prop thing, I feel like it's just one of those things that they'll use every now and again. I don't know if they'll recognize it as like an official AEW title, and they probably shouldn't, because unless Taz is going to work with AEW for quite a while, that's kind of his thing. But who knows? It's I'm actually kind of really interested in where this title match leads, though, next week. When they first announced it, it was like, oh, they're doing this again with like Brody and Archer pushing them right away, but honestly, at this point, who knows if Moxley retains? Who knows? Because Brian Cage hasn't really had a lot of in-ring work, but I could see him as a guy that can beat Moxley. So, not that Brody Lee couldn't, and Brody Lee took Moxley pretty deep into his repertoire as well. So, we'll see what happens. Regardless, it's going to be one hell of a match next week, and a third straight week of pay-per-view quality television. I think AEW has a lot of momentum riding it on this. And I hate to bring up ratings, but last week they didn't really necessarily hit a mark that at least I was expecting. Not really even comparing it with NXT, but I thought they could have done. I honestly, based on the card, thought they would have had a lot more people watch it. But again, one of those things where Nielsen ratings are a little bit less, I would say, less meaningful than they were 20 or 30 years ago, because of the way that they run them is so old school. They haven't really converted all the ways that people can watch TV nowadays or stream shows or whatever, how they do that. So we really don't honestly know how many people watched AEW last week. So, and we don't know how many is going to watch this week. I do feel like they should rebound pretty good, though, with this card that they had and the show that they put out there. And this segment, again, it's one of those things, like they didn't blow your mind, but it was kind of one of those moments where you'll let Taz do his thing. You can kind of catch your breath after two pretty hard knocking matches, and then we move on to the next match, and that match will be
the 8-man tag match. And just to kind of put the cherry on top of that segment with Taz and Cage, think of the FTW Championship as the $1 Million Championship,
okay,
type of thing. Just kind of that's a better analogy versus the internet, which they're kind of the same, but as far as I guess level of I don't know significance, if that's even the right word for it, but level of imagery probably be with more of a comparison to the
internet title, okay.
$1 million title. But anyways, yeah, 8-man tag match. You had the Lucha Bros and Butcher and the Blade versus FTR and the Young Bucks. I literally wrote this down during the match. Said I can't wait to see FTR and the Lucha Brothers fight. Later in the show, they announced that next week at Fight for the Fallen, FTR versus Lucha Bros. That's gonna be a hell of a match, hell of a tag team match for sure. There's a couple flaws in AEW. The biggest one is the women's division.
Right.
The second one is the consistency in the tag division. Now, what do I mean by that? I just pushed over the tag division being the best and deepest in pro wrestling history. What I mean is the legal men in the ring. All these double teams gets old after a while. The ref needs to do the job. They need to call out. They need to get a little more physical. I understand that they're also calling the match or whatever, but at the same time, you got to be more of an authoritarian figure. You're the referee. You're in control of this match. I don't remember who was refereeing this match, but they were confused.
Was it Paul?
Towards the end, I think it was Paul. Towards the end of the match, they were confused as to who was the legal man.
Right.
That's not good. I know 8-man tags can get a little bit of a cluster, and especially with that many guys, on either side, whatever. I get that. And I'm not trying to knock any referee or anything like that, or even knock AEW so much for it, but it's a glowing flaw that is becoming more and more apparent, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, what the hell have you been missing? I've seen this a lot. It has happened before. And the biggest thing about that is you work once a week, if that. Sometimes they tape these shows, so you're only working once every 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's more reps is going to help for sure, especially in tag matches, but they got to have the consistency of being the official in the match. You're going to listen to me. These are my rules. These are the rules. You're going to listen to this. I'm the ring general here. One man in from either team. Let's go. Get the other 3 or 4, 5, 6, however many. Get them out. Mm-hmm. Lay down the law. So that's one glaring flaw about that. Crazy match overall. Spots upon spots upon spots, but very entertaining. That Canadian Destroyer from Phoenix to Nick Jackson was sick. On top of all those bodies, that was crazy. But in the end, Butcher and the Blade and the Lucha Brothers end up getting the win over FTR and the Young Bucks. Good match, entertaining match. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. I think, again, to note, and I feel like during my live tweet, I might have tweeted the same thing basically twice. I think with the Hangman match and then with this match as well. And I think I said something along the lines of like AEW has the greatest tag team vision in the world or something like that. And to go to your flaw, I think this was something that honestly I think Jericho had mentioned behind the scenes to the tag team guys, that they have to actually follow, I guess you can consider it the Americanized tag rules, like
the old school tag
rules,
yeah.
Because a lot of these indie guys, they follow kind of the Lucha Libre style tag team, the Tornado tag team, where there aren't any tags. It's just you do whatever you got to do, and everybody's a legal man, and you can do whatever you want in the ring. And so that transition, obviously, for people like Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks, where we've seen them fight hundreds of times, or at least 10 plus times, in multiple different promotions throughout the entire world. Triple A, I think they fought a couple times in Impact, ROH, New Japan maybe. I don't know if they fought in New Japan.
I don't think so.
And then AEW, obviously, from the beginning they were feuding. You kind of see the chemistry there, and then you have somebody like FTR who comes in and they're strictly like old school rules. And so the chemistry flow is a little bit off there, I feel like, between all the people, because obviously this was like the first time a lot of FTR fought most of these teams. So and you can't really blame anybody specifically. And I do agree, the officials, not only in the tag division, but basically overall, outside of Aubrey, they're kind of just relaxed and not really playing an authoritarian character, which Aubrey will get up in there. And I think she even did it tonight in the Jericho match.
Yeah, she always does during Jericho's matches.
I think she kicked Jericho in the leg or something like that during commercial break. So, Aubrey, that's why I consider her the best in AEW, one of the best active in the world. But it's because she can play that character. And I think Bryce does a good job as well. Paul, I'm not really familiar with a lot of his other work outside of AEW. And then, what's the other one?
Bryce Rimsberg, Rick Knox.
Rick Knox. He's pretty good as well. But yeah, it was a little chaotic there a little bit. And if you watch Dark this week, that 8-man tag match too was kind of a little bit chaotic with Butcher and the Blade, Lucha Bros, and who did they?
4 random dudes.
Yeah, those 4 random jobbers. So a little anything outside of like a normal 2-on-2 tag match can get a little bit confusing, or a trios match can get a little bit confusing. So I understand that you want to let everybody get their spot, and everybody surely did get their spots in this match. And it was a good match out. I mean, if you want to take out that one little thing. Other than that, it was a solid match. Probably one of the best tag matches AEW has put on from a athletic point of view. And then you had that Canadian Destroyer that almost ended everybody's career.
That was sick.
And that just topped put the icing on top of the cake there. And you needed every ounce of breath that you could have ever regained back from the Taz segment to watch that, because you were holding it. You're like, what's going to happen next? And that's what's so cool with the tag division is one person does one spot, and the next person goes out and outdoes them. And so eventually these spots are going to get more risky, and we'll probably see a couple more injuries because of that. But, I mean, they put their bodies on the line for our entertainment, and I'm not going to complain about it. So,
amen to that.
I mean, and the ending of this, I was shocked. I didn't think Butcher and the Blade and Lucha Bros was going to win this match. So, threw me for a little bit of a spin, and I enjoy that. If I can predict every match, then
be boring.
It'll be kind of boring.
Absolutely.
So, I like it. You throw a little bit for a spin. We get Lucha Bros and FTR next week. And if it was anything like when they were fighting in the ring tonight, they were stiff. They were throwing punches at each other. So I can't wait to see that for Fight the Fallen next week.
Absolutely. That's going to be one of the best matches, probably, if not on that card, in AEW this year for sure. From that, we go to a squash match upon squash matches. I mean, you could probably go to the bathroom and come back and the match would be over. Nyla Rose versus, is it Kylan?
I think it's Kylan King.
Kylan King and Kenzie Page. Yeah, squash match. Easily Nyla wins. She gets on the microphone now, so she's also getting a manager. If Brian Cage has one, Lance Archer and Cody. Arn led Cody to the TNT title, and it was like, hell, even Taz brought in the FTW Championship, so Brian Cage is running around here with the title. I want one as well. I want to get that women's championship back. So apparently Nyla is going to have a manager. She did not give any hint as to who it will be or who it is or when she will announce it. But it's interesting. And a lot of people are probably going to be pissing all over that. Oh, my God, why another manager? Why do we need more managers? Why do we need more managers? It's an old school method of wrestling.
Yeah.
If you're struggling and you're trying to get back to the top, you get a manager.
Mm-hmm.
That helps you elevate your game and it helps you elevate your rank in that division. So, good, smart move on Nyla's part. It's going to be interesting to see who the manager will be. And I can't wait to see kind of where this takes her in the women's division. At the moment, there's really only Nyla, Shida, and Penelope Ford. Of course, Britt's out and Statlander's out. And with COVID, some of these gals can't come in, and some of the guys as well can't come in and compete or do anything. So, Interesting segment. Wasn't anything too flashy as far as the match goes, but a nice little announcement there to kind of keep it entertaining, keep it intriguing. That's what the women's division need, is intrigue and uniqueness and something fresh and good. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes from here.
Right. Yeah. Cool thing, I think JR mentioned it about Kenzie Page. I think she's only 18 years old. The youngest in the AEW women's division.
And we're here doing a podcast. Look at our lives.
Yeah. Trained by Mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, Glenn Jacobs.
Plenty boy.
And I think Tom Pritchard.
Dr. Tom.
Dr. Tom Pritchard, yes, sir.
Lucy's brother. Brother loves brother.
Yes, sir. So she was trained by some of the best, some of the legends in the industry. So, and she's young, and she got her ass kicked tonight, and that's what you got to do. You got to
pay your dues.
You got to pay your dues, and sorry to plug my podcast. You got to take your bumps.
Never a dull moment to do that.
No, sir. That's what I like about AEW is when they do a squash match, they're not just going to bring a one-off with some random guy. They'll bring the indie guys and gals that they use, and they use them constantly, and they'll let them pay their dues. And eventually, if they get over on Dark, or if they get over on whenever they're on Dynamite, you see what happens with Statlander, where I don't think coming into that, she had a contract, but the fans reacted really well to her, and she got a contract. And same thing with Shanna and some of these other women, and I guess you can say Ricky Starks, I think, did the same thing. He's had a contract after his debut. So, and eventually I have a feeling Brian Pillman will do the same thing as soon as he can get out of his contract in MLW or wherever he's at now. So we're seeing these, AEW is giving talent an opportunity to show what they can do. And for the most part, the squash matches aren't one-offs. They're usually having the same people do the jobs and take the bumps and pay their dues in the business. And that's so cool to me. And as much as I hate having these type of matches, I feel like in this instance with Nyla just coming back after quite a while off, it fits her thing. It allows her to easily get a win and then point out she's getting a manager. And she left out the greatest man without a title with a manager, and Sean Spears.
Absolutely.
But that's okay. If she would have mentioned him, it may not have proven her point. But he's getting there. He's getting towards.
Eventually, it'll happen.
It'll get there.
One day, it'll happen.
He's getting there.
It's gonna be the glorious day ever.
Rumors are already flying off the fingertips of AEW fans on who her manager is going to be. Somebody said Jazz could be a good one, but I don't know if she's still even doing anything. My belief is Vicky Guerrero, only because she's already been kind of somewhat of a part of AEW, and she's the only woman legend I think that they really have that can be used, but they could swerve us, and it'll be somebody that we don't even know about or haven't thought of. And that's what's so cool with AEW is a lot of the people that they bring in, half the time, we don't even know they're coming. So, solid segment, I guess you can call it that. Nothing spectacular, but allows Nyla to continue her streak, her dominance. The only thing, again, I ask is for more time for our women. But, granted, there's not a lot of women to push storylines on now. So you can only put on what you can, and I enjoyed the Britt Baker segment that they had on later on in the show. So we'll talk about that probably soon.
I didn't really write it down. It was funny. Yes. It was what it was, kind of thing.
Bad night in the Baker household.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. The next segment that we covered was the Dark Order. It's a 6-man tag. The Dark Order, which consisted of Brody Lee, Cole Cabana, and Stu Grayson versus all 3 members of SCU. Of course, Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian, a.k.a. 2010 Scott Stapp, and Christopher Daniels. This match kind of started slow and then picked up the pace towards the end. Christopher Daniels about botched the BME. I think his days of being an in-ring competitor is slowly starting to come to an end, which is okay because we obviously the Scorpio Sky from the last night on Dark, as of this recording last night, so Tuesday night. Scorpio Sky gets his own theme song for his singles run, so I mean it seems as if he's really starting to make some headway here with his singles run, and SCU's getting behind him on that, so kudos to them, and it'll be interesting to see where that goes from here. But Brody Lee beats up on Christopher Daniels. Instead of Brody Lee going for the pin, he tags in Colt. Colt comes in and gets the pin. That's happened before, so it's pretty consistently now seeing that Brody Lee is stepping aside from him getting the pinfall or submission, handing it off to Colt Cabana. It's kind of the whole mantra of join us. You know, you're a loser. You've been losing. You're this. You're that. Join us and you'll win. You'll know what it feels like to be on top. Brody Lee stuck to his promise, so Colt Cabana gets a pin. Dark Order wins. It was a decent six-man tag. Different styles, I think, so it kind of just makes it a little odd in some ways, but not a bad segment, not a bad match, and it's going to be interesting to see the storyline from here, how Colt Cabana fits with the Dark Order, any singles matches he gets, how much he wins, if he doesn't win, if he needs Brody to win. So kind of interesting to see where this will go from here.
Yeah, definitely. And what is the one thing that you've complained that AEW hasn't really done recently, or really forever? Some of them to deal with selling injuries.
Yeah, that was a little flaw. See, I have some flaws with AEW. It's not all fairy tales and rainbows, but yeah, I am not a fan of AEW. These guys will get hurt, and then they just don't sell the injury. Next week they're fine. Especially Marco Stunt with that BS that happened when the pandemic first really started.
And then we see here tonight,
Colt definitely sold it.
Colt sold it well, and I think the match. This match wasn't necessarily about what happened in ring, but telling that story, Colt's injury.
Yeah.
And how the Dark Order was going to respond to that. And you didn't see Brody necessarily ridicule him for being injured. He did basically say, we expect you to be there in the match. We need you to compete. And he wouldn't let him tag out when he first, felt the pain. And obviously, if you've had any bruises ever, when you put a lot of pressure on them, it hurts like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
Well, that bruise he had, that looked real as fuck, and it looked like it was like from the top of his torso to the bottom of his hip. And I think it was when he was I can't remember if it was on Dark last week or night one of Fyter Fest. He was thrown through a barricade.
Yeah.
And we got this massive bruise.
Naturally, it's gonna mess you up.
Yeah. So, I mean, it hurts when and kudos to Colt Cabana. Okay, yeah. I was like, Colt. Hold on.
Who? Colt 45.
Kudos to Colt. He was able to do his thing, and I like this dynamic because what I feel like is going to happen is he's going to realize eventually that he's not winning. That without Brody, he still isn't a winner. Brody has to do all the hard work, and he gets to reap the benefits. But eventually, I feel like Brody might
push him
to the end, or put that in his face, hey, without you or without me, you still wouldn't be doing anything.
You'd be a loser.
Right, you'd still be losing every match that you ever fought. And we'll have that dynamic switch there. So I like this story. I thought it was going to happen with Preston Vance, but his arm or whatever the fuck happened. I don't even know if we haven't seen him in a while. So, or at least in action in a while.
Right.
So I like this dynamic with the Dark Order, and again, they have several different groups of tag teams that can fight. So that's what I like. You can see they'll put like two of the unnamed guys together and they'll fight, or you'll put Stu and Uno together, or who are the two jobbers that they signed? I can't remember.
8 and 9, 7 and 8, something like that.
That, yeah, and then, gosh, Alex Reynolds and John Silver, I think it's who
Skyler,
it is.
Something like that.
They tag team as well. So, hey, it's a cool dynamic, and I'm interested to see where the whole Dark Order thing leads. In terms of this match, wasn't anything special. Like you said, CD's kind of coming towards the end of his in-ring work. Hopefully he realizes that soon, and he doesn't act like Hulk Hogan and fight until he's definitely past his prime. But match was what it needed to be. It was kind of a sloppy match, but I think, like I said, the dynamic of this match wasn't necessarily the work itself, but selling Cabana's injury and him getting the pinfall and realizing, oh, hey, I can win if I fight with these guys, and then furthering that storyline.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see where that goes from there. If Brody kind of tests Colt a little bit more, or they tag more. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We get to our main event of the evening. The match everybody wanted to see. Orange Cassidy versus Le Champion, Chris Jericho, who was escorted with Santana and Ortiz at ringside. Meanwhile, Chucky T and Trent went backstage. Very entertaining match. Very entertaining. The whole point of this match was to get Orange more over than he already was. I think Jericho did that well. Went back and forth. The fast action at first. Orange catching Jericho off guard. All that good stuff was really good. Jericho kind of coming back, dominating for a little bit. And they kind of go back and forth with some near falls, do some false finishes. That was really good. And then the orange juice thrown by Ortiz into Orange Cassidy's face. That was interesting. Thought the match was over with the Walls of Jericho, with the Code Breaker. Nothing was working. The Michinoku driver by Orange Cassidy. A lot of stuff was happening here. Good false finishes. Good match. Of course, Jericho is going to win overall. Cassidy was going in for the Superman punch. Jericho reversed it by hitting him with the old Judas effect for the 1, 2, 3. So I think the match was a point to get Orange over. They fulfilled that. They succeeded in that. Jericho defeats him. So now it'll be interesting to see kind of where this goes from here. But overall, it was a good main event. I enjoyed it. Very entertaining. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, go back to that statement you said. The goal was to get Orange Cassidy more over than he already is, which in my mind is crazy because he's already one of the most over guys in the company.
Right.
But yeah, that's exactly what the goal was. And Jericho, I believe, said it was one of his favorite matches to do in AEW to this point. And I've never seen anybody complain about working with Orange Cassidy. He's a safe wrestler. He's not going to. He's athletic as all hell. Some of the things that he was doing, like you were like, there's no way a guy of his size should be able to do this. And he's a scrawny guy, but I mean he's athletic and flexible, and it was great. And some of those false finishes were really crazy.
On the edge of your seat type crazy.
Yeah, and I don't even know how to explain it. But the guy is, and I said this from the very beginning, one of the most athletic guys you'll ever see in the ring, and the character he plays is not indignant of what he can do in the ring, and the fact that he's able to do everything he is capable of doing with this lazy character that he plays. And, you have my brother who complains that the character is lazy, and that's exactly what he's supposed to be. And so, obviously, if it's pissing him off, he's doing his job.
It's working.
Yes, sir. And he's just, there's like, I guess how to explain it would be, you knew Jericho was most likely going to get that win. But you can't help but hope Orange Cassidy pulls off an upset.
Those false finishes created doubt.
Right.
And almost made you like, oh my God, he almost pulled it off.
Right. And then step aside Roman Reigns. That dude can throw a wicked Superman punch. We watched Dark.
Yeah, he can.
We watched Dark Tuesday of this recording, and he was fighting Will Hobbs or whatever his name was. But the dude knocked him out. Like Orange Cassidy, like flat knocked the hell out of this guy.
That was a real Superman punch. Knocked him out.
Yeah, and then that's what you're supposed to do. Like it wasn't a Superman punch and then let a guy get back up and then another Superman punch. Like he protected that Superman punch, and then Jericho hit him with. I don't know if you can call that first elbow a Judas effect because it kind of looked like he
just a back elbow.
Right, and then he actually hit him with the Judas effect and killed him. But I like the heel face dynamic in this match though, with Orange Cassidy saying that he didn't want help from his buddies, best friends, whereas Jericho didn't necessarily said he wanted help, but they were there, they were ringside, they were interfering with the match. So again, the small little details, production-wise, the fact that Best Friends did come out at the end, right when the orange juice was thrown in his face, like, hey, we're not going to interfere with the in-ring stuff, but we're tired of seeing you getting beat up by 3 people. We're going to interfere here and take out the ringside guys. I thought from a total match perspective, it was a solid match. Really good as a main event, and I don't know exactly where you can put Orange Cassidy now. That's just a thing. He kind of gets his little moments where he just steps in front of the camera
and a great goal,
and then creates a story. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he'll step aside and let the Best Friends kind of run wild for a little bit, or maybe he'll start his own thing. He had his own entrance music today, which was kind of cool. And so I love the match. I was really hoping Orange Cassidy could pull off a win. We were joking that if he won, he was going to be number 1 contender next for the title. That's still something I want to see, is an Orange Cassidy title match versus whoever. Like, I don't even care if he gets his ass kicked. Like, put him in a title match. And I don't know. It was a solid match. Jericho gets a win, continues, trying to build up his character from kind of falling flat on his face. He hasn't been able to beat the Elite, and I feel like this may be
unfinished business.
Right. This may be now time for Jericho maybe to plan getting ready for either trying to get I don't know if AEW does rematch clauses, so I think he did say he wanted Moxley or Cage or whoever he wants to get back into the main title picture. But he has to work his way back up there. You have people like MJF and Shawn Spears and stuff that has been on quite the run that I feel like should be over Jericho at this point. We'll see. And that's so cool. It's like with other wrestling promotions and stuff, you can kind of predict, okay, well, once one feud ends, where the next feud is going to start. Here, I don't know. There's so many options that you can do for Jericho. You can have an inner circle thing. Obviously, Hager's still suspended. Sammy's actually still suspended. And then what do we do with Pride and Powerful and Jericho? The only 3 members left of the inner circle. Could this be a trios run or something? You never know what they'll do at AEW. That's really what's so interesting about this company is you can't really predict where storylines start and end and when they even kind of hit their climax. So you have to watch every little detail of everything that you can to figure out where the next story may start or end.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting, like you said, to see where we go from here. All we know is that next week is Fight for the Fallen. It's going to be a fun show. It's going to be a show to help with relief of COVID-19. So it's going to be a fun show. I think that the card is very stacked, so we shall see what will happen there. Overall, kind of hit this on the quick, on the down low. Thumb time.
Oh, thumb time.
Thumb time. Don't even need an explanation, but what did you give the old Fyter Fest number 2 tonight?
I'm gonna give it. I'll give it 2. I'll give it 2 thumbs up. I thought it was worth it. There wasn't really a dull moment. There wasn't a moment that I really wasn't interested in the show. So I'll give it a solid 2 up. We're
gonna be different, and usually ours are pretty close. It's gonna be a lot different. We're gonna go 1 1/4. So you got the thumb down, or just one thumb, the quarter, the mid, the quarter, the 1 3/4 thumb, and the 2. Mine's the 1 1/4 thumb. So it was a good card. I really enjoyed it, but there was something just missing a little bit there. I needed something a little bit more, but overall, it was not disappointing. It's a good show.
Right.
It's a good show. I know, like usual, we got the Twitter polls, the poll skis on the Twitter machines. Mine, like usual, is pretty simple. Every week, I ask 2 great shows tonight. Which one did you guys watch? Hashtag AEW Dynamite, hashtag Fyter Fest, or hashtag WWE NXT, hashtag Great American Bash. Let me know. Overwhelming support here. 88% said AEW, 13% said NXT. Does that translate to ratings? Not always, because we've had AEW just about every week on the show wins, and last 2 weeks I won the ratings for. So, but what was your poll?
My poll, let me find it. I think I said, I'm curious, fam, what did you watch? Not what was the better show necessarily, but what did you watch? AEW Dynamite or NXT Great American Bash. I said, what was the better show? What did you watch? NXT Great American Bash, both were okay, or AEW Fyter Fest. 72% of my poll said Fyter Fest, 23% Great American Bash, and 5% said both were okay. So, for those who voted, both were okay. Did you really watch both, or you just...
I did see somebody on Facebook that actually had a split screen, a picture-in-picture. One was not even really picture-in-picture. It was both equal spacing of screens. One was NXT, one was AEW. That was really cool. I kind of would wish I had that kind of setup, but I'm an AEW guy, so I like it. But
and I messed my poll up. Usually I set them for like 30 minutes. I forgot to change the date or the time.
So it's still going. So if you want to get on in it,
you can vote.
You got another 22 hours left.
You got about 22 hours left, and at the time of this recording, who fucking knows? Because we can't really promise what time this gets up every day. So.
Technical difficulties, man. I'm telling you. 1 o'clock gets the standard barrier. We'll see if we get that time frame this week.
It depends on when he wakes up. So
9:30. I'm off tomorrow.
45.
We'll it'll be up sometime in the afternoon, hopefully.
Right. So regardless, if once this goes up, there'll still be some time to y'all can vote and skew the poll a little bit more. Vote for AEW.
There you go. Speaking of social media, it's about that time. It's about that time. What is your social medias?
As always, y'all can follow me on Twitter at the B Podcast. You can find me on Facebook, Takin the Bump Podcast, or facebook.com/TheB Podcast. And if you would so kindly please help support me and help me pay off my credit card debt and purchase some merchandise at prowrestlingtees.com/TheB Podcast. So simple, guys. Capital T, the capital B podcast. You can find it. I have a YouTube page, but I don't think I put anything on it yet. So I won't plug that because you won't find any content. Hoping maybe I can broadcast in a Vince Russo debate sometime soon. Well, we still gotta plan that out, but it's coming.
Somebody would ever get back from Asheville, we'll have a time for do that.
Yeah,
we'll get to it. I promise.
It's coming, and I'll be the moderator of it.
Sure.
And at that point, I will tell you how to get to my YouTube channel.
Of course, you guys are watching this on the Beyond the Curtain Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel, so if you would be ever so kind to hit that subscribe button right down there, and then hit the notification bell, so that way you guys are notified each and every time a new episode is uploaded to this channel. It helps us out a great deal. Like the videos, share them with your friends and family, and give a comment. Let us know if you actually liked the show or not, what you did like, what you didn't like, what your thoughts on AEW or NXT was. Of course, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Beyond the Curtain Podcast. And you can follow us at Twitter at BtheC Pod 18. We've also got a Pro Wrestling Tees store as well, ProWrestlingTees.com/Beyond the Curtain Wrestling Podcast, all lowercase. I did not put out an audio-only episode on Anchor/Spotify/ your favorite podcast listening devices this week. Try to get a little bit more of a consistent schedule because I did 2 back-to-back weeks, and I said it would be every other week. So took this week off. Next Monday there will be a quick episode, maybe just one of those off-the-fly type of things I don't have really much of an agenda for, or it could be something that I'm kind of just planning out and just going off a format. It's more of a mystery. You just have to tune in to listen to it. So follow that page. You can listen to it on Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, I believe is one of them, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. So I think it's on Spotify and Anchor too, but...
you know what I missed? I just totally realized this. I didn't plug my podcast. I didn't plug my podcast. I'm just so used to just doing your podcast. I guess just one now. But anyway, my podcast, the Takin the Bump podcast. Every now and again, I get on there and I say some shit of my own opinion, and I'm hoping if the time is right, sometime this weekend, I will preview Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary. Haven't watched Impact in a while, so I kind of want to catch up on some things. But I think the majority of the card has already been announced. Tommy Dreamer's in a world title match, so 1998 called again. But anyway, Slammiversary should be on the podcast, a preview of it. I think it might be a pretty... underrated card, guys, and I have a $30 Fight TV credit, so all I gotta do is pay $10 for the damn thing. Everybody else gotta pay $39.99. So
there you go.
Tune in. Anchor, Spotify, should be on Apple, but I don't know what the freak's going on with it, so gotta figure that out. Trying to wait for Apple to contact me back on why they won't put it on. And because it's not on Apple, the thing about Anchor is the RSS feed for Apple connects to basically everything but Google Podcasts and Spotify. So if you can't listen to it on Apple, you can't listen to it anything else but Spotify and Google. So download Spotify and listen to my podcast, please. Again, help support me. You listen to my ads, I get some money.
If anything, just listen to the ads.
Just listen to
the ads.
Listen to the ad. You don't have to listen to my podcast. I don't care. Just listen to the damn ad. It's like halfway through every episode. So
there you go.
Anchor.fm /Takin TAKIN/the/bump.
That's a lot of stuff to remember.
Yes.
Just pause the video, rewind it if you didn't get it. That's what YouTube's for. Anyways, guys, we will see you again, of course, next week on the next AEW recap show. We'll be recapping Fight for the Fallen. And look out this Monday or Tuesday, depending on the timing of it, for that audio-only episode where I will post it on my social media so that way you guys will have access to listen to it. So, once again, for my host, James Beatley, thanks for coming on as always. We'll see you guys next week on Beyond the Curtain. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying healthy out there. Stay sexy, my friends. We'll see you guys next week.